Hello, people of the world watching new vehicle reviews on the internet. Welcome to this, the 2025 Acura ADX A-Spec Advanced All-Wheel Drive. Or in other words, Integra for people that find ketchup too spicy. So today I'm gonna get this thing up in the air. We're gonna nerd out in the tech specs, see how it is constructed, and then go give it the beans. All right, first things first, exhaust system. Mufflers are, you guide them. Dual outlet, single mounted recovery point made in Philippines. Despite this being an all-wheel drive Acura, it is not paired with the super handling all-wheel drive system, rather the advanced all-wheel drive system, which is similar to Honda's real-time system. It features an on-demand rear differential unit housed in the center of a steel rear subframe. It's a fairly simple system and features a 5.641 final drive ratio. You can see it's hung up front via an aluminium diff brace. Out back, the ADX utilizes a multi-link rear suspension configuration with aluminium knuckles as well as aluminium lower spring bucket links. The remainder of the suspension links back here are stamped steel though. As far as the rear dampers go, they're manufactured by KYB. As far as their rear anti-shoestring goes, oh my, that is the smallest rear anti-sway bar ever I have ever seen on a vehicle. About 13.5 millimeter in diameter because it's the all-wheel drive model. If you go for the front-wheel drive, it jumps all the way up to about 18 mil. I think the end link's girthier than the sway bar. It's got a little bash hoop protecting the fuel tank. The 2025 Acura ADX chassis code SA in the A-Spec Advanced Top Trim all-wheel drive you see above weighs in at 3,611 pounds with a 57 to 43 front to rear weight distribution. Hairy cardboard. Also, just FYI, this is a pre-production ADX, so I can't really critique them on build quality stuff because this isn't actually a production model. Mid-mounted muffler resonator, stainless in construction. Well, that is a strange charcoal canister, twin actually. As far as the sound department goes, the entire system is made out of stainless steel. Mid-pipe's fairly straight and it measures in at approximately bigger than I thought. 57 millimeter and change diameter, about 2¼ inch SAE. As far as the transmission is concerned, while this may be a bit of a buzzkill for enthusiasts, regardless if you get front-wheel drive or all-wheel drive, it doesn't matter. It comes standard with an in-house designed Honda CVT automatic transmission. And while that may be a bit of a buzzkill, I want to point something out. This is all-wheel drive. And if anything in the past with Hondas has taught us that this all-wheel drive system might potentially give us some parts bin items to adapt to other L-series powered Honda vehicles like the Civic Si or the Integra to make those all-wheel drive using this stuff. Mated to that CVT, you can see the power takeoff unit or transfer case with the drive shaft connected to it. And just below that, you can see the electronic power steering rack. Speaking of that electronic power steering rack, it is variable ratio with 2.4 turns lock to lock. Up front, utilizes an all-steel McPherson strut style suspension configuration. With cast iron knuckles up front, you can see it does have a removable ball joint from that lower control arm, make maintenance easier. Again, with those KYB sourced coil over strut front dampers. As far as the front anti-sway bar goes, that's a lot bigger than I was expecting. 28 millimeter in diameter, not bad. Wait a minute. That is a plastic dog bone mount down here. The under engine cover is metal though. That's a pleasant surprise. It's got all sorts of aero flaps underneath here for stability and fuel efficiency. It's all plastic vents. Now time for the braking test. Nothing behind me. Ready, set, stop. Okay. All right. Had some spice on the initial bite, and then the stopping distance was a little bit longer than I was expecting, and it was just kind of steady, and I want to say a smidge below average for the size of the vehicle. This video is sponsored by me. my very own car detailing product company, RoboBubble, made in USA. And if you'd like to use what I use to keep my cars clean and also support this channel, this is how you can on my website, sarahandtune.com. Thanks. That braking was just made possible thanks to a little single piston front caliper with a 312mm or 12.3-inch front rotor. The wheels, they are a 19x8 with a positive 50mm offset die-cast alloy manufactured in China, wrapped in a set of two 35, 45, 19-inch Continental Pro Contact TX tires. Inner fender liners, hairy carpet, ride height, about 2 foam fingers. This one is equipped with the optional Aero package. You got these little lips down here. LED projector fog lamps. Through the front bumper, you can see there's some little active grille shutters that open and close. Front-facing cam under the massive Acura logo. Rear inner fender liner. Also hairy carpet. See the little rear spats for the Aero kit. Out back, you have another single piston caliper and go down just barely to a 310mm or 12.2-inch rotor. The wheel and tire, same size as you have up front. In the name of science, it is now time to give it the beans. First, assessment of bolstering. You know, it's actually got a little bit of bolstering to it. Not bad. It's a little bit of a wide seat for my shape. This one's interior is finished in orchid, which is like ivory white. It's got blue Alcantara suede. That's really soft. They are ventilated as well as heatilated, as is the steering wheel, a button right above the little A-Spec badge. As far as drive modes go, I have a little flipper in the center that says dynamic mode. I can flip that, make Gran Turismo sounds and go from sport to normal to comfy to snow. Press it for individual and then you can press and hold it, and then you can custom configure everything from engine, steering, engine sound, idle, stop start, and gauges. Also, I have a hill descent control button just below that. I don't know why anyone would take this thing off-roading. As far as traction control goes, I have a button right next to the sugar cube dispenser. Press that to reduce traction control. That's it, you can just reduce it. I can also bring the transmission down from drive into its own sport mode, where I have some flappy paddles on the back of the steering. I think that's actually metal. It is, and they turn with the steering wheel. Give this thing a light launch. I don't know if it's actually gonna like that, but we'll try and see what it can do. Ready? Go. Hesitate, hesitate, hesitate. There we go. Fake shift. It's got a hair of spice. Another fake shift. That's good. Interesting power band. Compiled with the CVT and the boost coming online and VTEC. It's very saucy. Hood pop. That feels a lot like the CRX's hood popper. That's a heavy hood. Wow. No hood strut. Look at that little suction cup. Underneath the hood of the 2025 Acura ADX is the L15BE, which is an all aluminum 1.5 liter dual overhead cam single turbocharged 4-cylinder that produces 190 horsepower at 6,000 RPM and 179 pound-feet of torque at 1,700 all the way to 5,000 RPM. It's just a giant flat torque curve in the power band. Well, that's weird. The little Acura logo is kind of just tucked away underneath the snorkel lung on the intake. Well, yes, the Integra is powered by a Honda Acura L15. It is not this L15BE. This is just one of the numerous iterations of the L15 series engine. There's all kinds of different tweaks, parts that they use for each different application. You can see it does have an electronic wastegate actuator, and the turbo is mounted up front, which is kind of a old school traditional Honda Acura way of doing things. There's a lot of room in this engine bay. It's a big engine bay as far as ease of maintenance. Super small valve cover. It's plastic in construction. Digging a little bit deeper on this 1497cc turbo four-banger, it is massively undersquared at a 73 by 89.5 millimeter bore and stroke with a 10.6 to 1 compression ratio. Even though it is an aluminum block, it does have cast iron cylinder liners with a forged steel crankshaft, heat forged and crack separated steel connecting rods with aluminum pistons, 2 oil squirters per cylinder as well. Moving up to the cylinder head, it does have Honda Acura's VTEC on the exhaust cam, as well as VTC variable timing control on both intake and exhaust cams. The exhaust manifold is cast directly into the cylinder head, where the MHI TD03 single scroll turbocharger bolts up to, and this is a direct fuel injection engine only. You see the back half of the engine bay is super spacious back there. Actually a ton of room to access for maintenance. Well, that's neat. The CVT actually has a dipstick. Interesting. Washer fluid reservoir tucked into the fender well. Interesting looking brake booster. I think that actually might be an electronic one, thanks to that giant barnacle underneath it with a huge CAN bus attached. Electrical corridor down here, the traditional 12-volt battery, fuse box, and ECU. Whoa! Look at that ground terminal. Holy shit, that's a ton of ground wires. Well, mechanically speaking, this is simply not just an all-wheel drive blob-shaped Integra. It's a fancy HRV. Go. All right, definitely some fake sounds being pumped into the cabin there. And some fake shifts. Handling assessment, preliminary, looks like we got some lean to it, a little floaty, shifty. By no means is this something I would compare against to an Integra, even though there are similarities at the heart. The handling is not as firm and as crisp as I was hoping for. It handles like a good little Econo bubble. That's the best way to put it. The steering loads up with a little bit of heft. Is it worthy of the A-Spec badge on a handling assessment? I wouldn't say no. It's not like this is a Type S. It's a little bit sporty. I'm not enjoying myself. I'm still smiling going down a windy road with it. So I'm just, I was kind of expecting, I was hoping for a little bit more spice. What I did learn, however, though, is you can manipulate it so it doesn't do the fake shift. Just get it right in the sweet spot and then roll off the throttle, and you can hold it right there. And honestly, I think that accelerates quicker than doing it full throttle and letting it fake shift. I'm curious as to if there's any noticeable difference putting it into comfort mode and still driving it the same way on a windy road, and seeing if it actually changes the experience at all, or if those modes are just kind of a placebo effect. I don't think that's how you use placebo effect in a sentence. I can tell already throttle input wise there's a difference between sport mode and comfort, but I mean, it doesn't have any other input really on the driving experience whatsoever. I mean, this doesn't have adaptive suspension, so you wouldn't expect it to do much else anyway. Yeah, you can feel this thing's weight when you hit little bumps in the corner and it starts shifting and bouncing around, and also has a pretty tiny little anti-sway bar in the back. Noticing that a tiny bit. I don't know, sometimes cars that don't handle that well make them more fun to push in corners. I'm getting a little bit of the vibe I got from the Chevy Trax, actually, in the aspect of it can kind of be fun to send down a windy road, but the Trax is significantly cheaper than this, and that's what made it even more endearing. For this price, I want a little bit higher tier level stuff here, but I feel bad like I'm being super highly overcritical of the ADX in terms of handling, because this is not why you would buy one of these, but it has an A-Spec badge on it, so I'm conflicted. So hear me out. At the right angle, when you look at the back of this thing, it kind of reminds me of an AMC Pacer. It's got that angle to it, and the taillight flatness, maybe? I don't know, I see it. Anyway, opens the hatch. What? Is it beeping? Oh, I thought it was beeping. It was just a bird. It is just a bird. It's a bird beeping. So if you buy an Acura product, you get a complimentary bird that beeps when you open your doors. That's a small vehicle, but a small but mighty vehicle. Got all right space back here. Big ol' thumpy boy subwoofer in the back. It's got ports around the edge. I like that. Hey, they learned their lesson after many years. This is actually made out of plastic and not cardboard now. Yet the top of it is still flock lined and soft. Underneath the storage area is some foam cubes. That would fit a small lunchbox perfectly. Ah, you can set the height, but that looks more like an MDX than it does an ADX. Welcome to the back seat of the ADX A-Spec Advance. I have the air conditioning on because it's hot, so I'm gonna hold this thing like it's a mini microphone. Anyway, the seats, they're pretty like they are in the front. Armrest in the center. It's got a little bit of squish to it. For a little vehicle, excellent legroom. Dual USB-Cs, my own vents, but no heat or ventilation in the rear seats. The rear armrest looks like a cartoon character pair of sunglasses. It's kind of hard. Tweeter, good size rear door speaker. Do my seats recline? No, that's a tiny window. Little portal-like LEDs. While I've never driven an HRV, this right here is why you'd choose one over an HRV. Acura's interiors are pretty. It's plain and simple. The orchid and ivory finish goes up onto the door cards and armrest, as well as the dash. It's just kind of like rubber leather or something. It looks like brushed aluminum, but no, it's plastic. Well, unfortunately, you don't have an option for 3 pedals down here. You do at least get metal pedal covers, but nothing on the dead pedal. Kind of similar vents to what you get in the Civic and the Integra, and digital climate control down here with physical dials. Love that. Whoa. It actually turns color around the outer ring depending on what way you rotate it. That's neat. Wireless phone charging cubby. Yes, my screen is smashed. Cup holder and hot pocket holder. This one's got the giant hole cut out in the roof if you like that sort of thing. It's a pretty good size roof too. Only the front portion opens though. RoboFold mirrors. Has a typical Honda Acura gauges. Center is all digital with customizable displays, and then you got the physical gauge over here, which is also kind of digital. There isn't really any performance monitors, but you do have a gauge for your all-wheel drive torque distribution. It's got safety features for people that enjoy those robot aids. As far as the infotainment system goes, just a little screen plopped on the top of the dash like a tablet. Gives you some physical buttons though, and a knob for the volume. Ah, there's speakers right above your head. That's why it sounds so good. The tweeter design looks like the little Star Trek emblem. All right, I'm actually impressed. This Bang & Olufsen 15 speaker sound system in here. Great bass. Heard a tiny bit of distortion up high when you really crank it, but I'm impressed. Pretty good. When I first hopped in this thing, my initial instant reaction was, this is a nice interior. That's just what stands out about it. And then my first initial reaction from driving it is with this little L15 1.5 turbo and the pairing of the CVT and the slingshot engage effect you get when you roll your throttle into a CVT transmission vehicle. It's like it's got a little bit of spice to it. And then I continued to drive it for the rest of the week, and I didn't hate anything about it, but the looming thought of the price of this for the top spec model and what other vehicles you can start to get into in the lowest trim grade of that model, it's a tough one, because I mean, you can get a Q3, a GLA. Those are pretty spicy when it comes to their lowest end model with all-wheel drive, 2-liter turbos, just better geometry in the suspension and more aluminum components in the construction of that. And it just kind of comes to a decision that each individual that's buying one of these vehicles has to make. Do you want the highest top end version of a lower end vehicle, or the lowest end version of a higher end vehicle? And I can't tell you which is the right way to go. It's all up to you and what you prefer. Do you want a leather wrapped lawn chair or a canvas wrapped lazy boy? Fuel economy wise, for the type and size of the vehicle and the fact that it does technically have all-wheel drive, but it only really uses it if it absolutely needs it, it's okay. It's average, I would say. Another downside is the color options, or the lack thereof. You essentially have red or blue and varying shades of gray to black to white. There is a couple little cost savings measures that I've caught on to in the manufacturing of this, like the fact that it's not built in the USA, which traditionally most Acuras are, or components not being made in Japan or the USA on here. And that's something that Acura is usually known for. Also, some lower grade materials in areas that people might not pay attention to unless you're super mechanically inclined. And that's fine, because this is the type of vehicle for someone that calls their vehicle the car and not what type of car it is. That's fine. If this is just something you use as an appliance to get you from point A to point B and you could care less about car enthusiast type stuff, it's awesome for that type of a person. It's a great vehicle for that type of a person. But if you call your car by its name and you are a bit of a car enthusiast, there's no logical reason to buy this as a daily over an Acura Integra. The Integra is leaps and bounds in every way a better vehicle, unless you live in a place that has miserable, sloppy, snowy winters and you need all-wheel drive. It is now time to give the Acura ADX some scores, starting with the bean score, the assessment of the feeling you get in your gut when you give it the beans. And it's getting a rating of. Next is the cookie score, the assessment of value. And this fully loaded A-Spec Advance is expensive as you can get one of these things at just over $46,000. It gets a rating of. At that price, the competition is way too strong from the European competitors. It just doesn't make sense. So the best way to go is just a base model all-wheel drive. Next is the wrench score, the assessment of ease of maintenance, and it gets a rating of. Followed by the squid score, handling assessment, and it gets a rating of. And lastly is the penguin score, the assessment on how much I personally like a vehicle. And the ADX A-Spec Advance gets a rating of. Don't take this the wrong way. I don't hate the ADX. I just feel there's no logical reason to buy one of these over an Integra as a daily driver unless you live in a climate where there's miserable, sloppy, snowy winters and you constantly need all-wheel drive. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this review. I'll see you soon with another. Bye.